Now, our last panellist, and Ashling Golden, feel free to come to the podium. Ashling, yeah, if that's what you prefer. Ashling works for an organisation, Dublin-based organisation providing services, Solas, who we would have had some of Ashling and our colleagues and our team in with us in previous assemblies. So, Ashling, over to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to speak. I work for an organisation called Solas Project, and we run the Compass programme, which works in Wheatfield Prison, Mountjoy Progression Unit, and Oberstown, the Oberstown campus. So a lot of the time, I think when we think of youth workers, we think of youth workers working in community settings or clubs or even out on the streets, and we don't necessarily put youth workers into the prison setting. But the Compass programme works on the basis that youth workers should work with young people no matter where they are. And unfortunately, there is a lot of young people in this country who are within the walls of our prison and detention centres. Actually, the stat on the slide there will show you that currently Irish legislation, if you're under 18, detention is a last resort, which is a really important piece that keeps under 18s out of prison. However, from the day you turn 18, you do not get them protections anymore. And actually, even though 18 to 24-year-olds only make up 9% of the general Irish population, they make up 20% of the prison population, suggesting right from the very beginning that there is a problem with the prison setting and young people. But I'll start with the good, what's working well. And there is a lot of stuff that is working well. And when we go into the prisons every evening of every day, every week, we meet young people who are absolutely crying out for support and change. They do not want to be in prison. Prison is no holiday camp. They are linking in with us because they want to tackle their addiction. They want to look for employment or whatever supports they need when they get outside. And they're already saying, I don't want to be part of the revolving door system. I'm looking for something new. And they are absolutely jumping to be involved in a programme like Compass. Unfortunately, the Compass programme, as good as it is at working with the people who they work with, does not reach anywhere near that level of young people who are actually within the prison setting. A huge piece about young people, that is the most important piece, is that they are more open to change and rehabilitation than adult offenders are. Their brains are still maturing. They're still in the space where they have that opportunity to really turn their lives around. And if we can provide the right interventions for those young people within the prison system, we can have a much better chance of supporting them, like we've heard from the people here with their lived experience. When you get that support in the system, there is a much bigger opportunity of you being able to turn your life around. However, like all of it, there is a lot of stuff that is not working too well. The drugs trade is the number one reason why young people are finding themselves in prison. Not all of them have necessarily gone in because they have a drugs conviction or they've been done for sale and supply, but even the young people who have gone in because they've been involved in assault is often an assault that has come from warring drugs factions. Or if it's a robbery due to that drug debt that they have built up and they need some source of creating an income. So even the stats that we see on people going in on drugs offences does not actually show the level of the impact that the drugs trade is having on imprisoning or leading to young people in this country finding themselves within prison. The drugs gangs that we have heard over the last couple of a Citizens' Assembly have a huge grip on the most marginalised communities in our society, and the problem is at the moment they are winning and that young people are losing out as a result. If we have young Jimmy who's got caught with a certain amount of drugs on him, before the judge has even given him his sentence, before he even gets a chance to address what's going on for him in prison, he's been replaced. He has been replaced back out in the community by Young Owen. Young Owen has taken up his spot where he was involved in the selling, and this is where we are falling behind, and this is where the drugs trade and the people who are willing to exploit it are winning the race in terms of having the control in this area. No, we're not ready to meet Connor yet. So a huge piece is young people who find themselves caught up in the drugs trade have found themselves caught up in the drugs trade, like what we heard already, not because they wanted to be there, but poverty and trauma is what is leaving people to be there. Then we've got a whole section of society who are looking to exploit that. They are the people who see these young kids from when they're so young and they know they're going to work for me at some stage. And the fear of a prison sentence, the fear of finding yourself locked up is not enough to combat what's going on for these young people. It is the drugs trade that is winning in this war, and the fear of a prison sentence isn't enough to stop young people going down this path, unfortunately. If it was, we wouldn't need to be here. We have been doing this for 40 years. Our response to drugs crime has to be lock people up, and something is not working with that. Then when you put people into prison, we add to some of the exclusion and some of the trauma that they're facing. You're talking about 19, 20-year-olds who are going in here who have to face the stigma that comes with being in prison, the exclusion from your community. When they get the opportunity to get supports that have been outlined, that's great, but they don't all get that. And I think that's a really important point that needs to be heard in the room today, that while there is health services and there is drug counsellors and there is the Compass programme in the prison, not all young people get to avail of that, particularly if they're on short sentences. Most prisoners serving under a year sentence will not avail of any of them services while they are in prison. And again, that all contributes to that revolving door problem that we have within the prison system. Then when they return to the community...
2 minutes, actually.
Yeah, when they return to the community, they come out with the added isolation. They come out with the stigma that it's attached, that they're the bold kid. Nobody wants the lad who's been in prison moving in next door to them. They're not wanted a lot of the time in the community. If they had positive friends, them friends have moved on. They've built their new lives. And the addictions, the trauma and the poverty that led to them going into prison, often when they come out, are even harder to face. The support systems that they can have can be smaller. The opportunities that they have when they bring that stuff back out can be even worse. We're not going to get to meet Conor today, but we'll have a look at what we can do differently. We need to stop treating people who have got involved in the drugs trade for whatever reason. We need to stop excluding them from society. We need to have systems that allow people who need support, whether it's somebody who's just decided to, the 19-year-old girl in Malahide who's taking cocaine for the first time at the weekend. We need a system where we can talk openly about it, where we can educate, and when people find themselves struggling with addictions or struggling, going down a path of grooming or into criminality, that we can speak openly and we can talk about it. Anybody who finds themselves in prison needs the support of something like a Compass programme or a Cork Alliance who is able to say, where do you want to go? What do you want to be when you come out? And how do we get you through it? They need to walk out that door of the prison with somebody guiding them along that route. If we expect them to just come back out and be able to change things around that they weren't able to change before they went in, we're not going to be able to do that. We really need to send a strong message to any person who is caught up in the drug trade. If you are a young person in this country, that you are important, that you are an important part of community life. If you're battling an addiction, if you're involved in the sale of drugs, or if you have gone to prison and have been at the most extreme end of it, there is still a place for you within this community. You are still wanted. Link in with a service, see what is there, see what can be supported for you, and let's stop adding to the further stigma and the further marginalisation of these young people, and do our absolute best to bring them back into our community.
Well done, actually.